Have you ever heard that old adage? It goes like this: poor is loud, rich is flashy, but wealth moves silently. Now, what does that old adage really mean? If you think about it, it's true that when you see poor people, okay, whatever you want to classify that as, poor people tend to be quite loud with it. If they're going out and they have something nice, you're going to see it. They're going to dress in bright colors. They're going to wear brand name stuff that's not actually authentic, and they want you to see it. They're going to wear gold chains. They may have a big gold or diamond earring that's actually not real. All right? They're going to drive a fancy car, quote unquote fancy car, brand car, high quality car, Mercedes, something like that, but it's going to be an older car. Yeah? And they're not going to probably live in their own home, but yet they're still driving one of these types of cars. Poor tends to be loud. Rich is flashy. So for example, you may see some actors on the red carpet. They're going to be wearing brand name, and you're going to know that they're wearing brand name because it's going to be advertised, Louis or Gucci or whatever it is, because they want you to know that they have these luxury items. They may even drive a fancy car as well, and it may be a really nice car. It'll be a top grade car, okay? And they're going to be quite flashy. If you're going to hear them coming, you're going to see them coming. Yeah, rich is flashy. But wealthy people, wealth moves silently. Okay? People with wealth, real wealth, generational assets, they move silently. I know this because I grew up in Bermuda. Bermuda is a very wealthy place. It's got a lot of old English money. It's still a colony to this day. And that's when I grew up. Even today, you can see huge estates. You don't even see the house. You just see some road leading off somewhere. But when you see these people in the towns and the little small cities that we have, when you see the cars they drive, you would not know these people are wealthy. These people own, boats and estates and properties overseas and companies. They are wealthy, but you would never know it. They dress in the plainest clothes. They don't drive fancy cars. Wealth is silent. People with generational wealth is silent. Even those multi-billionaires that we know about, Bezos and Zuckerberg, and it's well known that they tend to be very plain in the way that they dress. Okay? And there's a reason for that. Poor is loud, rich is flashy, but wealth is silent. Now, I mentioned assets. Now, we need to talk about assets before we move on. Well, what is an asset? An asset, let's just write it down. There's different types of assets. Okay? An asset is something that holds value and gains in value over time. That's a simple definition for it. There's different classes. We can have physical assets. A physical asset. So for example, this may be something like, land, property, wine, gold, things like that. Okay? Physical assets. You can have digital assets. Okay? Digital assets. So, for example, you may own, some copyrighted material, like music, okay, or images, okay, or patents, or patents, whichever way you want to sound. Yeah. Financial assets is another class. Financial assets. So for example, let me just fix this pen up just a little bit, decrease the thickness. Financial assets like stocks and shares, bonds, guilds, things along those lines. Those are financial assets. And we also have more intangible assets, things, for example, like if you own the rights, you know, to a music portfolio, rights to music. You know, if you own the whole Michael Jackson catalog and the Beatles catalog and Beyonce catalog, the publishing rights, those are financial, sorry, more intangible assets. These are different types of assets that are important, okay? That we when we're defining what an asset is. We're also going to add to this, we're going to add to this definition Robert Kiyosaki's, just spell his name if you want to go and look him up. Many people would have heard of Robert Kiyosaki already, and his book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay, it's a well-known book, especially if you've been trying to, you know, understand wealth and how to increase your wealth. Rich Dad Poor Dad. Excuse my handwriting there. Rich Dad Poor Dad. So in his book, he talks about assets being things that bring positive cash flow. An asset is something that brings positive cash flow. That's what an asset is for Robert Kiyosaki. Okay, so an asset, remember we said wealthy people have assets, are things that hold value, gain value over time, and to add in Robert Kiyosaki's definition, rich dad, poor dad, they bring in positive cash flow. Now, what does he mean by that? Well, let's look at an example here. Let's say you own a house, simple example, and you pay the bank $1,000 every month in a mortgage. Okay? For Robert Kiyosaki, that wouldn't have been an asset. He would consider that a liability because you're paying every month for this mortgage. All right? Now, let's say you could rent out that house for $1,500 per month. That leaves you with a net of $500 per month that you're taking in. That would be an asset using his specific definition. Okay, so that's what he means about things that have positive cash flow. Now, of course, if you own a house and you're paying on a mortgage, but you are going to work from that house, you're housing your family, you know, then obviously in the long term we can consider that an asset. If your car takes you to work and that's allowing you to you know, earn a salary, especially if your car is paid off, that can be considered an asset as well. But it's just important, I think, in my understanding as I developed over time, to understand what an asset is, and also from using Robert Kiyosaki's definition as well. Now that I've said that, final thing before we actually get into the steps of how to build wealth, because this is important, you need to understand the why and the when. Okay, let's call it the why and the when. Now, let's start with the why first. For me, I started to really look at this topic when I was around the year 35, when I was around 35 years old. Why? Because the big 40 was approaching. When you hit 35, especially as a man, I don't know about women, but especially as a man, you start to look at your future. You realize, oh, 40 is right around the corner. You're starting to get gray hairs. Your body is telling you that 40 is right around the corner. You start to look at your future and you start thinking about things like retirement. You're like, wow, retirement is much, much closer now. And for me, when I hit that age, I didn't have any large savings and things like that. I might have been saving here and there, but nothing large. And I was thinking, I was married, I have family, you know, children, wife. People want to travel, you want to take your children away, and more importantly, you want to leave something behind for your children as well. You think about, what am I going to leave behind? Okay, so that was the why that really made me start to think about wealth building and how I could change my circumstances. And I started to just absorb as much information as possible. I started to look at videos. I started to read books like Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, all of that, all of those classic books. I was just reading, absorbing, going on webinars, even paying people in classes and master classes. And as I was looking at all this information over time, I realized that they were all kind of saying the same thing. And for me, I'm a scientist. I hold a PhD. I'm a science teacher by profession. Teach chemistry, teach science, other sciences as well. I like things to be very analytical, things to be quite structured in frameworks. So I started to think about how all this information fit together, and I came up with what I call the wealth building cycle. Okay, I was so passionate about it that I even wrote a book about it, which you can see on the screen. And this book, you can go on Amazon and find this book on Amazon. Go into a lot more of the detail. You're going to get the steps here for free, but in the book I go into a lot more detail in terms of how the practical methodology of putting the steps in place. Okay, so that is the why. The when, well, for me it was 35, but you can see the title of the book. The book says The Wealth Building Cycle, What I Wish I Knew When I Was 20. So the reality is I wish I would have learned this information a lot younger. So the why, the when is anytime. I don't care what stage of life you're in, there's no better time to start building wealth than now. Okay? But the reality is the earlier it is for you, the better it will be. So if you can start early, or even get your children started early, or your loved ones started early, get the book for them, share the book with them, share this video with them, it will change their lives, especially over time. Okay, so that deals with the why and the when. Let's get actually into the wealth building cycle now and the steps. Now you notice in the book I say the 5 steps. I've now revised the book, which I'll be publishing soon, and I've made it into 6 steps because I broke one of the steps into 2, but I'll talk about that in a minute as we go through the steps. I just want to give the disclaimer here. This is not professional financial advice. I am not a professional financial advisor. This information is given for educational, okay, and informational purposes only, based on my own experiences. If you want more information from a professional, go and seek professional advice. Okay, good. All right, so what are these steps that we're talking about? So let's go and detail them out now. The first step here is education. And in fact, I'm going to put in the middle the term wealth. I'm just going to put a circle around that. That's our wealth. Okay, in the middle section there. Education is the first step. Okay, now what do I mean by education? If you go and ask a random 10 people in any major city or wherever, in developed countries especially, and you say, do you have an education? The majority of them will say, yes, I have an education. Why? Because education is free. Yeah, education is free. Definitely up to secondary school in most cases. People normally have some sort of university education, some sort of trade education. The majority, if we ask 10 people, 10 out of 10 will probably say they have an education. Even those that do not have a formal education, do not have a degree, let's say they don't even have a secondary degree, high school degree, they have some sort of education. They may be able to talk, speak English, speak another language. They can walk. That's a skill. That's knowledge that they have. And this is what qualifies as an education. Now, not all education is the same. And we're going to talk about that in the second step. But let's just put this. This is the first step, education. The second step is earn. Earn. Okay? Now, having an education allows you to earn in some way. Even if you just speak, you speak English or some other language, you can join a call center. Let's say you can't even speak, but you can use your legs. Then you can, drive. You can drive, be a driver, or you can work behind a rubbish truck or be a street sweeper. Okay, but not all education is the same. Let's say you are a neuroscientist, a cardiologist, or heart surgeon. Okay, let's say you understand AI at a very high level, programming. Let's say you're an engineer. These are different levels of education, what we are going to call high income skills. High income skills. So we're going to have an arrow that goes from education to high income skills and back to earn. You want to maximize the high income skills that you have that will allow you to earn the most money possible so that you can go into your wealth container, which we see there in the middle. Okay? All education is good. Some education is better than none. But obviously, focusing on the high income skills, it will be a benefit. And I just explained what they were. Okay? But just having an education, just earning, is not enough to say that you're wealthy. We all know that. We stop 10 people in the street. They're not all wealthy. They have education. Most of them are earning as well. But it's not enough to say that they're wealthy. So let's look at the third step. The third step is budget. Now, by budget, I don't just mean, I look at my salary from time to time. I think about I should stop, buying snacks or so on and so on. By budgeting, I mean a regular look at your savings. Sorry, it's a fly flying around me. So let's look at the third step. The third step is budget or budgeting. Okay, let's put that arrow going in. Budget. When I say budget, I don't just mean that you've had some sort of cursory look at, oh, I shouldn't buy snacks this week, or that minor thing. When I talking about budgeting, I'm talking about a regular programmatic look at your income versus your expenses using spreadsheets of how you can reduce waste, okay, from your going outs so that you have more coming ins. That's what budgeting is, and I talk about how to do it in the book, even give examples. So on a week by week or month by month, definitely a year by year basis, you are looking at your finances and looking at your expenses and saying, I need to cut this out, I need to cut that out, this is a waste, that's a waste, cancel that subscription, okay, or I need to increase this income, so on and so on. Now, why is that important? Remember, this is a cycle, so I'm going to add the cycles going around, the arrows going around. This budgeting step is important because it links to the next step, which is saving. You cannot effectively save if you do not budget. Okay, so I explained what budgeting is. Let me explain what saving is, which is our fourth step. Might sound simple, but most people don't really save. Saving for me in this system is, again, regular, it's automatic, and it's programmatic, meaning you have a program of saving. Okay, you have a separate account to save in, and it's on an automated basis. It's not in your current account. In fact, let's see if we can ask ChatGPT. Let's put the iPad down for a minute. Let's ask ChatGPT. I think I loaded this up previously, but I might have lost it. So let's ask ChatGPT. Let's ask it what is the average percentage of people who actually save? Let's just put regularly. Let's just use the US as an example. Okay, and let's see what it says. It's thinking. So it says employed Americans report saving an average of 23%. Okay. 10% of employed Americans aren't saving anything at all. Okay. 10% are not saving anything at all. So that shows you that a lot of people are not saving. And we know how surveys go. Some people say they're saving, but they're really not. All right. So saving in this case refers to a regular programmatic saving. Now, not all saving is the same. So we're going to put a little side arrow as we did previously with the earning and education. And we're going to call this HISA. What's HISA? HISA is a high interest savings account. That's what HISA is. When you save, you cannot save in a current account because there's no interest on it. And most normal savings account, the interest is quite low, 1%, 1.5%. So what you want to do in order to maximize, remember we're talking about building wealth, in order to maximize your savings is use a high interest savings account. How do you find it? You're going to go online, you're going to research different banks, just type in best high interest savings account in your area or wherever. You can do them online. Many of them will have 3%, 3.5%. Before there used to be 5%. You may not get that now, or at least you may get that, but you may have to leave your money in for a couple of years, which is fine because it's a savings account. Okay, so you want to use a high interest savings account as a way to maximize and optimize your savings. Now, at this point, I'm going to divide the wealth building cycle in half. Let's just draw a line down. And there's a reason for that. Okay, and we're going to call the left hand side, we're going to call that the, in fact, let me get rid of this, the book title, and just move this over. Can I move it over? Let's see if I can capture everything and just move it over. Here we go. Okay, like that. That should be fine. Back to the pen. And we're going to call the left side of the wealth building cycle, this is the low risk side, and it's the slow side. Okay, so the left hand side is the low risk side, and it's the slow side. Why do I say that? Well, these things are quite low risk. Education, no risk in that. Earning, just no risk in that. Really, tax maybe. The more you earn, the more you can get taxed. Budgeting, definitely no risk. And saving, there's generally no risk to savings. Okay, your savings should be protected by most banks. Okay, but to build wealth this way alone would be quite slow, which is fine. There's always that story you hear sometimes of, you know, someone who's working in a hotel. You may have an older woman who has worked in a hotel for the past 40 years cleaning rooms, and she's been able to buy a house, and she's retired with lots of money because she's just in the background, she's just quietly saved slowly and surely. Okay, so that's an example of how it is slow, but it is effective, and you must do these fundamentals before you move on to the other side. Now, this side also is what I call the consumer side. You're operating as a consumer on this side, and I'll explain that in a minute. let's move on to the next stage. Now, it was this stage, or this side of the stage, where I really started to myself to build wealth, to put together at this point in my life. Remember, I started when I was 35. I'm now 50. A good portfolio of assets that I'm happy about and I want to continue to grow. And how I did it was I looked at this next step and educated myself on investing. Investing. Okay, again, let's repeat my disclaimer. I'm not offering any investment advice or financial advice, only education for informational purposes only. I'm not a certified financial advisor. If you want certified financial advice, go and seek a professional. But for myself, I learned that it's through investing that I would be able to make and accelerate my personal wealth building. Okay, now let's look at why. Let's compare savings. Let's say we saved $100 a month. Okay, a month for a year. So that's times 12. That is going to be $1,200 at the end of the year. That's quite good. No one would turn the cheek against $1,200. All right. And let's say we did that for 10 years. Multiply that by 10. And obviously that's going to give us $12,000. 12,000. All right. That's just with saving. That's not even with interest. Now, suppose we invested that money, for example, in the S&P 500, which is a basket of the top 500 companies in America, where you can invest in that through different funds. Different companies will offer different funds that basically track the performance of the S&P 500. So let's ask ChatGPT what our return would be. So let's say we invested $100 a month over 10 years in S&P. What is our return? Okay, let's see what it says. So it's thinking about it. So it says that the total invested is $1,200. The profit, the future value would be $20,485. Okay, now it's given a monthly return of 10%. Let's say base this on the average return from past 10 years on S&P 500, so it can be more realistic. Let's see what it says. Just thinking about it. So it's saying if you invested in the past 10 years, you would get even more. Okay, I think it's giving a higher rate than normally, but we'll go with it. All right, so let's say we'll take their value for 20,000. You can go online and do your own calculations, and let's just say $20,000. So in the same period that you would have saved, someone would have saved, someone else who would have invested in the S&P 500, which I'm not suggesting, you can go and do your own research, someone else would have gotten $20,000 return. That's $8,000 more. Okay, and so that's the power of investing. Now, what does investing mean? Go and read the book and I go into detail, but investing means investing in assets. Okay, so these are things like stocks and shares, of companies. Okay, we're talking about bonds, gold, commodities like gold, property, all sorts of investments out there. Even today, there's crypto as well, cryptocurrency. Okay. Now, investing obviously comes with risk. You have low, medium, and high risk investing. So something that would be quite more of a lower risk investment, maybe something like a government bond. Something that is extremely high risk would be something like crypto. You never invest more than what you can afford to lose. Okay? So investing comes with risk. And that's why on this right hand side, we're going to put that this is the high risk side. It's also, though, the fast side. You can earn big money investing and even bigger money trading, but the quicker the return, the higher the risk. But if you really want your wealth to build, you want to start investing. There's a reason why, for example, when Zuckerberg and these different people, they come up with these great ideas for their companies and then they sell them, they don't really ask for cash. They ask for shares. They know their companies are going to go up in value, so they want to remain a shareholder. They want to remain an investor in that company. They want to hold assets. And so that's where we need to change our mind. Okay? Now, step 6. This is the highest risk, but it's the quickest way to build wealth, and that is entrepreneurship, aka business. Entrepreneurship, business, starting a business. Now, there's a reason why the Forbes top 100, the Forbes top 500 contain mostly businessmen and women. If you think about those people that are the richest in the world, they are the Zuckerberg, he owns Facebook, a business. Okay, Bill Gates, Microsoft, Nvidia, business, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Alibaba, these are all businesses. You're selling products or services. So business is how you can really accelerate your wealth, but it's also the hardest. I was looking at some statistics on ChatGPT earlier preparing for this, and most startups fail. 90% they said. And most successful businesses and business owners have failed multiple times before they've actually been able to create a sustainable long-term business. And it takes years. Most businesses fail within the first 10 years. You can go and do your own research. So this is quite risky, setting up a business. It doesn't mean go out and just leave your job and say, I'm going to set up a business, I'm going to become wealthy. Okay? But there's no risk without some reward. We know that. But business is one of the key ways by which you can build wealth, and you can build wealth fast. But it's not easy, because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Now, on the right-hand side, remember this is the fast side, the high risk side. We've now converted from being a consumer, which was the left-hand side, to a producer. Now, why do I say that? The left-hand side, you're a consumer. Why? Because your money isn't working for you, it's working for other people. So you're going to go get an education. You're paying someone for that. You're going to earn while you're giving, you're trading your time for money. Okay? You are saving. You're saving in a bank, and they're taking your money and investing it. Be assured that. Okay? You're buying insurance, things like that. They are investing that money. You are a consumer on the left-hand side. And I had to shift my mindset from being a consumer to a producer as much as possible. On the right-hand side, you're a producer. Why? Because now your money is working for you. You've bought shares in a company. That means you own a company or part of a company. And that means that company is going out and people are buying products from you, essentially. Or you may own your own business. You're producing some sort of service, some sort of product, and now people are coming to you and giving you their money, which you can put into your wealth. So let's put our arrows in. Let's not forget that. Into the middle for the wealth basket in the middle. These are the 6 simple steps. They may be simple to understand, but not simple to actualize. Now remember, it's a cycle. So once you start a business, that doesn't stop. That business may fail. That's going to teach you something. The cycle continues, and the more you can go around that cycle, and the earlier you can start, the more your potential to build wealth will activate. The earlier you can start, the better. But it's never too late. Remember that. Now, just before we wrap it up, I'm going to talk about 3 more things that the wealthy do. Okay? And I'm going to put them in a box down at the bottom here. So here's the red line I'm going to put around our wealth basket. And that is using legal instruments like trust to protect their wealth. The ultra wealthy use trust because they know that when they pass on, they may want to leave that wealth so it passes down through their family for generations, or for an institution of what they care about. Okay, and you will need to seek legal advice of how to do this. This is for people that have lots of assets that they want to pass down from generation to generation. The second thing that's very important, and we'll use the blue line for this, okay, is life insurance. How does life insurance help to protect your wealth? Let's just put life insurance. Because we all will pass away one day. And if you happen to pass away earlier than you want in your wealth building process, then having life insurance will be able to give your family and those ones that you care about a large sum of money that can possibly help them now on their wealth building cycle. Let's say you're in the process of buying a house, then that life insurance can then help them to purchase their house when you're gone. For that small amount of money that you're going to pay month to month, because it does have a cost, you can have a lot of protection. You won't be able to use that protection. It's not for you. Okay, there are some life insurance products out there that act also as savings, but they're very expensive. But your family will be able to use it. So life insurance, very important. And then finally, I'll put this one in purple. And many people either avoid this or don't want to, or forget it, don't know about it, is having a will. Making a will properly. Okay? Because if not, your assets that you've accrued, this wealth building that you process that you've accrued and gone through, will go into what they call probate. That means the courts will decide who gets the right money, who gets the access to the wealth and assets that you have. They will appoint an administrator who may not be somebody that you want to be appointed. They may not put your money in the right places. Okay? So having a will. These 3 things are what the wealthy use in order to protect their wealth. And it's something that you should seriously consider. These are the 6 steps of the wealth building cycle. Education, earn, budget, save, invest, and entrepreneurship, aka business. If you want to learn more about them in detail, you're welcome to go and purchase the book. It's also on Audible. If you want it as an audio book, if you don't want to read the book, you can just sit up and listen to it. Okay? And that book has the 5 steps. This is 6 steps I've broken down for free. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and subscribe.